What's going on, everyone? Nick here to talk about the Peacemaker finale on HBO Max. There will be spoilers. If you're new here, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications, all that good stuff, and share with your friends, family, your dog, your cat, whoever, and whomever. So, what I want to do here is talk about the online community with this show and how it's been rated so far and what my thoughts on it and what my rating is for the whole show and this episode. So, without further ado, Rotten Tomatoes here has it at a 95%, 9.5 out of 10. The audience score, 8.7, 87%, right? Which, as a show itself, I want to say is probably right around where I'm kind of sitting at, like an 8.5 to 9 overall. Now, again, I think the show for 8 episodes ramped up along the way, went from 8, to about a 9.5, which is essentially what I want to give this last episode. I think it hit a lot of good points. I think it kind of wrapped up this whole season very well. At least a 9. It did a lot of great things. And I think, we have to look at shows more than just what we're seeing. We got to also talk about what we hear, what's behind the writing, behind the characters, behind the actors. And I think one of the interesting things here is we get a DC show that eh, if it wasn't for the Suicide Squad movie that James Gunn created, the show would have never probably existed. And I think for the sake of John Cena, I was never a big fan of him per se. Not nothing against him either, but I just didn't typically care for him. I was never really that big into wrestling, for that matter. But I wanted to see what he could do, right? And I think this might have been one of his, I guess, best performances as an actor, at least in the acting realm. I think he was able to portray Peacemaker, Chris Smith, and show that he's not just this juiced up wrestler or big macho alpha male sort of guy who just acts like an asshole the entire time. He has some breakdown moments, he has some emotional moments, he shows some humor, some care, some nerdiness, some stress, some depression, some high notes, some stupid notes. But all in all, it was a pretty damn good show, I have to say. It was better than I thought it would be. Again, looking at from a writing perspective, if we also look at the scores on IMDb here, overall 8.5, right? And we can see that there's a lot of people who actually gave this show a 10 or 9. And look, that's the great thing about all this. It is your opinion. If you think this show is a 10 out of 10, by all means, give it a damn 10 out of 10. I'm not, but that's just me. And that's one of the whole things about critiquing shows. It is very subjective. Even the actual critics themselves, they're just critiquing things based on their quote unquote professionalism. But at the same time, actually most of the time, we don't really listen to what critics have to say. And sometimes you look at a movie or a show and we really base things off of how the critic scores it, how the audience scores it, right? Just like Rotten Tomatoes. If this was a 95 and the audience score was a 67 and not an 87, would you really watch this show? Or what if it was the opposite way around? What if the audience gave this a 55? Or the critics gave us a 55 and the audience was like an 87 still or 90 something, right? Like 90 plus. Would you still watch it? Something to think about, right? Because we could go on about other shows that have and movies that have been in that realm, that have been in that regard. I'm not going to really go into some of the comments that I've read online between these two sites alone. Very hilarious in terms of I don't usually talk a lot about anything that is agenda driven or tokenized or woke. And I think there is a lot of that in Hollywood nowadays. And again, based on my background and what I like to do is I like to at least try and look at a show for what it's worth in the writing. Now, again, we know that James Gunn has had some issues personally with his writing and his personal life, and just how that translates to the screen. But I think he's done a better job in this sort of sense, and even the perverted sort of jokes that come into the realm in this show is fine. And I didn't really have a problem with that because I don't know, it's just my sort of thick skin or sense of humor, I guess. But I can see how people are thrown off by some of the things that take place in this show, or even in this final episode here. But speaking of the final episode, which is probably why y'all came to check this video out. So, what did I like about it? I think again, this stupid-ish, nerdy sort of humor has still translates to a lot of what we see here in the show. All in all, I think in terms of again the acting, the characters, the relationships between the characters is still brought out and fleshed out. That's important. Right when Harcourt goes down, she gets shot a couple times and has to learn how to go through some rehab and or physical rehab that is, and learn how to essentially walk again. And on top of that, you know, uh, Chris Smith, Peacemaker, he's waiting in the hospital day after day because it looks like they got a thing going on, right? So we'll probably see more of that in spoiler season 2. But even Adebayo and Peacemaker have made up, and our BFFs. Vigilante seems to be okay, and I think at the end, right when Adebayo comes before the press and just literally tells the truth about her mother, Amanda Waller, what Argus was, the whole plot of using these criminals to reduce their sentences by doing things that other people wouldn't do in these special forces, these special task forces, uh, and that there was this alien invasion sort of thing going down, and which, based on the DC world, the things that they've seen, it's not too far fetched because Superman exists and he's essentially an alien. So, speaking of Superman, there's a little line that Peacemaker says to, can't they call in the Justice League? And I, for one, thought, yeah, that'll never happen. Well, I guess I'll admit that I was wrong. And at the end of the episode, or at least at the tail end of the episode, we sure enough see Jason Momoa as Aquaman, Ezra Miller as the Flash, and we see these darkened silhouettes of Wonder Woman and Superman, which are not Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill. And I understand to try and get them to kind of make this brief cameo appearance probably would have, it may have costed an extra penny or two, but also trying to make the schedules work. You know, it maybe it could only work for Ezra and Jason, but in costume nonetheless. So maybe it just worked out because they were also sort of filming their respective movies, right? We're getting Aquaman 2, we're getting Flashpoint. So, and obviously they know who James Gunn is, and James Gunn is respected within that sort of realm. Uh, and there's the jokes about Aquaman fucking fish because that's what Peacemaker says, and then Ezra, the Flash says that's kind of true, and then Aquaman just tells him to shut up. It was great. The cameo was one of the best parts of this episode. I didn't think we would see it. Uh, Especially just them getting called in to back this whole thing up. But, you send some big guns to stop this alien invasion, which, I want to say for the sake of what takes place in this alien invasion, right? Like having this plan to go, stop the cow, because the title of the episode again, It's cow or never. And I think that's the other thing, right? Like the puns that have been used in each of the episodes is very clever, I think, a little witty. Maybe people find it corny or cringy, and again, that's to each their own, right? I think the music was very well selected in this, older rock phase, which I enjoyed. Some bands I've never heard of, but some I have. And I think the cinematography was well done. Just the overall filming of it was well done. I think the action scenes were well done, especially for a show that didn't have a huge budget, but a fairly decent one to make 8 episodes. And again, even before the finale dropped, we knew that a season 2 was coming, and that was something that I had said up to this point, was whether or not it would get a second season, because it's not like it ends in a way that there would be a second season. It just sort of ends, and I know that's the way James Gunn initially wrote it, but I think because HBO and Warner Brothers were like, "Hey, listen, uh, critics like it, but audience is eating this up online. For the most part, it's getting a lot of good reviews. Hey, here's a season 2. That's just how shit goes." Um, and again, I think in terms of what we can expect in season 2, eh, who knows? Honestly, I have not read the comics. I am a comic book reader, more so in Marvel than DC. And again, Peacemaker is not a character I was super familiar with going into Suicide Squad. I knew of him. I've never read his comic books. I know a lot of comic book readers um, were disappointed based on the lack of using the antagonist, White Dragon, so Peacemaker's father. Uh, and again, we didn't really know who the real villain was going to be. It definitely seemed like White Dragon would be the villain, and he was to a certain extent, but the overall focus was also the butterflies and this sort of alien invasion, which didn't really turn out to be an alien invasion, right? Like we see Goff not wanting to harm Peacemaker and saying like, no, you don't have it right. Mern wasn't necessarily 100% honest with you, and we get that backstory, and saying like the butterflies want to help fix what humans have done to the earth, which I agree with with what Peacemaker did. I probably would have done the same thing in his shoes. Um, and which I noticed that he didn't shoot Goff in the head. He shot in like the chest. So Goff is, and as we saw, is still alive. Or at least that's what I think. But I don't know if we'll see him in season 2, uh, or if maybe that's the last we'll see of him, because that food supply is just obviously done and over with as he pours the last parts out of the jar. I think that also could have been metaphorical, like Goff did die in Sophie's body, much like we see his father kind of sit next to him outside. Uh, but I don't know. What do you guys think actually about that? And again, I think the whole idea of like this alien race or species trying to save humanity, like I think we need to save ourselves. I don't think we should be relying on an outside source to make up for our mistakes. I think, especially in this case, in this fictional sense, by trying to do things that differently, force things upon us as well. Like obviously, um, it's never worked well when things are forced upon us to do things certain ways, especially if you're some alien creature. Um, so again, I think Peacemaker made the right choice there, and obviously destroying the cow, which was also hilariously done with the human torpedo, i.e., Adebayo, at the moment when she just gets plunged into the belly of the cow, and then falls down, and then just cow guts fall all over her. I was dying at that point. Because again, that was some funny shit. May have been gross, but still funny in my book. And I think again the effects of the sonic boom. We got some guile action from Street Fighter in there. I could have just sent him in there and just sonic boom with everyone, but hey, we're not gonna get some sort of cross reference here. But I think the overall grasp of this season was I'll say well done. Again, I wasn't too sure of what to think of it going in, but looking at things I generally try to look at in a show or movie, what's the writing like? How is the character development? How's the plot? What are the themes that are in this on a writing standpoint? And again, I don't try to look at or let any sort of pandering or tokenism or wokeness or political bullshit get in the way. That's not what this channel is about. Um, so, I think for the sake of looking at the writing for writing's sake, I think James Gunn wrote a good story. I think he wrote a good plot. I think the character development itself was established with the different characters. And again, it's supposed to be stupid. It's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be ridiculous. It's supposed to have these cringy and campy, moments. That's kind of also who James Gunn is. He's kind of done the same shit with Guardians of the Galaxy, except this is obviously rated R, in Guardians 1 and 2, and I'm sure 3 is not. So again, I think there are a lot of themes involved in this show, which we see through stress, through PTSD, through abusiveness, lies, the truth, secrets. You know, um, uh, again, learning to trust one another, learning to grow with one another, learning to be, befriend people, working together. Like there's a lot involved, which uh, is at least something. It's there's like a shallowness to Peacemaker, and that he needs to sort of break the mold and being a bully, caring about other people and being like, hey, listen, like some people don't have thick skin, and especially they've been made fun of, all their lives, like dying, him calling economist Diebeard, which there's that sort of touching moment for Economos in this episode. It's kind of like, yeah, Chris, you were kind of an asshole about that, you know. And again, I think as far as friends go, that's what friends do. We all, as friends, have some sort of joke with one another, but there's a limit as to how often it gets pushed or how far it gets pushed, right? So, uh, but from the start, they weren't buddy buddy. They became buddy buddy, but as we see Economist, he gets his laptop, set up, and he puts the picture out on his desk. When they were in their I can't think what they're called, the bus. As they're driving to the warehouse, right, and or from the warehouse, and they're just blasting rock and roll, and there's the picture that Harcourt takes between Peacemaker, him, and Vigilante, right, and so he feels like one of the bros, and being a bully is if you're a bully, you deserve to have essentially to be shit on. So karma's going to get you. But again, I think if this show didn't have a good theme or good themes, character developments and relationships, then it would have sucked a lot more. And I think the general public um, probably would have rated this show a lot further down on the scale. So um, again, I'm looking forward to seeing what season 2 brings us. I hope the writing is at least as good as if not better than season 1 here. I'll be curious to see what characters are involved and again what new characters maybe get included because of the comics. If you're one of the people out there that doesn't like to see the, any sort of, tokenism or woke bullshit or, any sort of pandering. Like, I get it. Believe me, like, there are the shows that I watch that shit is really prevalent in, and it's really frustrating. But at the same time, there are ways to go around it. There are ways to look beyond it. And that's sort of my approach. That's sort of why I created this channel, to not talk about it, but to talk about what's beneath all that, and story and plot and themes and character development. So, but I think I've done enough rambling for now. If you guys enjoyed this video, again, give it a thumbs up. Share with some people that you might think enjoy what I do here, um, and leave some comments below. I'd like to see what everyone thinks. I'd like to see what people say about their show in general. This finale episode here. I do my best to try and respond back to all the comments. I really do enjoy it, and it's a great way to kind of just converse with people and to talk about things and really sort of flesh things out and like have some creative conversations that are actually good for the thought process and just sort of thought provoking ways. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch everyone on the next video. Peace.